My name is Leona. I'm sitting here in my new townhouse, the morning sun streaming through the window, a cup of coffee in my hand. The silence is a luxury, a far cry from the chaos of my past. 6 weeks ago, the court ruled in my favor, awarding me 50% ownership of the family house. It was a victory, but it came at a cost. I remember the day of the mediation like it was yesterday. It was a crisp morning in Seattle, the air filled with the faint smell of rain and paper. I walked into the downtown law office with a folder under my arm and a coffee in my hand. My heart was steady, my palms dry. I had already faced the worst, being locked out of my own home by the people who were supposed to love me. The receptionist led me to a sterile conference room. White walls, a long table, and 2 pitchers of water sitting untouched. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the silence. I sat down, placed the folder in front of me, and waited. A few minutes later, the door opened. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, entered first. My father, a tall, imposing man, was wearing a pressed suit, his jaw tight and his eyes burning with anger. My mother, always the picture of elegance in her soft blue dress, looked pale and drawn. Behind them was my younger sister, Lily, twirling the strap of her purse nervously, her eyes downcast. Leona, my mother said softly, her voice laced with false concern. You look tired, dear. Good morning, I replied, my voice calm and detached. She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You didn't have to make this so formal. We could have talked. I tilted my head and looked at her. You changed the locks. Talking didn't seem to be your preferred method. Her smile faltered, but before she could respond, the mediator, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, entered the room, followed by our attorneys. My attorney gave me a reassuring nod as we took our seats. The first few minutes were filled with polite pleasantries, the kind of fake civility that made my skin crawl. Then my attorney opened the folder and began presenting the evidence page after page of receipts, bank transfers, and invoices. This file, she said, sliding it towards the center of the table, contains proof of Leona's direct financial contributions to the property at 345 Elm Street over a 12-year period. My father leaned forward, scoffing. That's absurd. Those were gifts. She was just helping her family. My attorney didn't miss a beat. The payments were clearly labeled as temporary assistance with the expectation of repayment. There are also text messages where both you and Mrs. Thompson referred to these payments as loans. Additionally, we have evidence that you concealed your assets, showing substantial savings while asking Leona for money under the pretense of financial hardship. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her perfectly manicured hands trembled as she reached for the papers. This is all being misinterpreted. We never. I interrupted her for the first time. You told me I didn't have a home anymore. Remember that? The room fell silent. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She looked at me pleadingly. That was a misunderstanding, Leona. We were angry. My attorney slid another page across the table. It's in writing. Dated and time-stamped. 10:45 p.m. The text reads, we changed all the locks. You're no longer part of this family. Let's see how you manage now. Ha. The mediator adjusted his glasses and frowned. That message certainly implies intent. My father's face turned red with anger. She's twisting everything. That text was a joke. I met his glare head on. So was your idea of family. The mediator tried to regain control of the situation, but the tension in the room had already snapped. My attorney continued methodically, pointing out every inconsistency and false statement. The evidence piled up: larger mortgage payments, renovation costs, utility bills, and even the receipts for the new locks. Then, the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. The opposing attorney, an older man with weary eyes, cleared his throat and leaned towards my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, he whispered urgently, though the room was quiet enough for everyone to hear, we have a problem. You need to call me immediately after this session. The irony hit me like a wave. I smiled faintly. There it was, the moment I'd envisioned for so long. My mother's composure cracked. Leona, please, she said, her voice trembling. We're family. Don't do this. I looked at her for a long time, then spoke softly. You're right. We are family. That's why I gave you so many chances over the years. But family isn't an excuse to take until someone breaks. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know, she whispered. Yes, you did, I replied. You just didn't want to believe it. My father slammed his palm on the table. After everything we've done for you. I cut him off, my voice steady. After everything I've done for you. You didn't raise me, you used me. For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of the air conditioner filled the silence, a white noise over the wreckage of our relationship. My attorney finally broke the silence. Based on the evidence presented, we're requesting a 50% ownership interest in the property or equivalent compensation based on the current market value. The mediator nodded slowly. It's a reasonable demand given the documentation. My father looked like he was about to explode. My mother reached for his arm, but he jerked away. Lily sat there, rigid, staring at the table. When the session ended, my parents rushed out of the room, whispering to each other in panic. Their lawyer followed, phone in hand, his voice sharp. Yes, I'm aware. I told them we had a problem. I sat there for a moment longer, looking at the folder in front of me, the quiet weapon I'd built out of betrayal. As I stood up, my attorney gave me a small smile. You handled that well, she said. Numbers don't lie, I replied. People do. Outside, the city was bathed in a golden light. The streets smelled of wet pavement and victory. I walked past a coffee shop window and caught my reflection. I hardly recognized the woman staring back at me, strong, independent, and free. I wasn't the obedient daughter anymore. I was the woman who had learned to fight without raising her voice. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. It all started on a rainy night in Seattle. I was 25 years old, working as a financial analyst at a local firm. I'd always been the reliable one in the family, the one who fixed things and kept the peace. My father, Mr. Thompson, was a strict man who believed in discipline and obedience. He saw love as a form of control. If something needed to be done around the house, he'd call my name before reaching for a tool. Leona, hold this. Leona, fix that. I learned to be strong and self-sufficient at a young age. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, was the master of manipulation. She had a way of making me feel guilty for not doing enough. Whenever the family was short on money, she'd sigh dramatically over the bills, and somehow, my wallet would open. Lily, my younger sister, was the apple of my parents' eye. She was 2 years younger than me, softer and more delicate. She never had to lift a finger around the house. My father called her the precious one, and my mother doted on her. I used to think that my role in the family was to keep everything together. I helped with the mortgage payments from the age of 19. By the time I was 23, I was covering the cost of home repairs and maintenance. It never felt like a burden, it felt like love. I remember one Christmas, standing by the window and watching my mother give Lily a beautiful diamond necklace. It's for our little princess, my mother said. Lily hugged her, and I forced a smile, pretending not to feel the pang of jealousy. That necklace probably cost more than my monthly salary at the time. But I told myself that family didn't count debts. But then, one night, I came home late from work, my shoes wet from the rain. As I passed the kitchen, I heard my name being mentioned. I should have kept walking, but something in my mother's voice made me stop. She doesn't understand that all her help was voluntary, she said quietly but clearly. When we sell the house, it'll be just our names on the deed. My heart dropped. Sell the house? The same house I'd worked so hard to maintain and finance over the years. My father's laugh followed, cold and smug. Classic Leona, all heart and no sense. Lily's voice was hesitant. But won't she expect something? My mother snorted. Expect what? She gave us gifts. Gifts don't buy ownership. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. The room spun around me, and the air was thick with the smell of betrayal. I gripped the wall until my knuckles turned white. Gifts? The word tasted bitter in my mouth. I walked to my room in silence, every step heavy. I sat on the edge of my bed, the glow of my laptop reflecting in my eyes, and started to remember every payment, every bill, every time they'd said, just this once. Hours passed, and the house grew quiet. I could hear the rain hitting the window and the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then, just as I was about to close my laptop, my phone buzzed. 10:45 p.m. We changed all the locks. You're no longer part of this family. Let's see how you manage now. Ha. The words burned into me. I read them again and again, slower each time. Locks. Family. Manage. That cruel laugh. No call, no explanation, just that cold message in the dark. But then, something strange happened. I started to laugh. Soft at first, then louder, until it echoed off the empty walls. In that moment, I saw the truth clearly. They hadn't pushed me out, they'd set me free. I turned off the phone, opened my laptop again, and started typing. I created a list of every payment, every receipt, every promise. By dawn, I had a folder filled with proof. Over the next few months, I continued to gather evidence. I pulled old emails, bank statements, and utility bills. I documented every transfer and every conversation. I built what I called the ledger of truth. The totals were staggering: $52,000 towards the mortgage, $28,000 for renovations, $18,000 for emergencies. A total of $98,000 of my life. I met with several attorneys. The first two didn't seem to take me seriously, but the third one did. She looked at me with sharp eyes and said, "You have a solid case. It's not about the deed, it's about equity. If you can prove your contributions and their intent, you have a good chance in court." Intent. That word stuck with me. I thought about the text message again. It was more than just cruelty, it was proof of their malicious intent. As the months passed, I continued to build my case. I archived every voicemail my mother left, pretending to check in. I backed up all my files, one on my laptop and one in the cloud. Then, just as I was waiting for the final piece of evidence, it arrived. 2 days after the anniversary of the lock-changing text, I received an email with the subject line, "Urgent Property Sale Notice." They were selling the house without telling me. I smiled. Finally, they'd given me exactly what I needed. The court's decision came 6 weeks later. It was printed neatly in black and white, 50% ownership awarded to me. It wasn't luck, it was the result of hard work and perseverance. The house sold for more than they'd expected. After legal fees and taxes, my parents walked away with half of what they thought they'd retire on. They'd built their future on my obedience, and it had crumbled under the weight of my evidence. I didn't move back into the old house. It was filled with too many memories, too many ghosts. Instead, I bought a small townhouse across town. The first thing I did was change the locks myself. New keys, new rules, new peace. Sometimes, my phone lights up with their names. My father's emails are full of guilt, and my mother's voicemails are dripping with regret. But I never answer. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. On these quiet mornings, I sit by my window, sipping my coffee, and enjoying the peace of my own space. No footsteps, no demands, just silence. Just mine. They changed the locks to keep me out, but in the end, they taught me how to live without them. Freedom doesn't come with forgiveness, it comes with boundaries and a new set of keys. Sometimes, justice doesn't roar, it just signs papers and walks away quietly. And that's enough. If you've ever had to rebuild your life after being betrayed by your family, you're not alone. Your peace is worth fighting for. Share your stories in the comments, and hit like and subscribe for more true stories of quiet revenge and hard-won freedom.